Welcome to kathysright.com. Today's special guest is public speaker, educator, and writer Terry Dillon. Make sure you subscribe today. Okay, so right now, I guess all we can think about is all the mayhem on TV. Apparently, there are a lot of young people who've lost their minds and decided upon destroying entire cities and other people's property. We had a new member to our council to represent the young people, and I felt, we were welcoming him and introducing ourselves to him. Young guy, goes to Catholic school, and you could tell he was a little shy, and everybody, I said, I like to think of myself as an encourager. And I said, I want to tell you, thank you for being an upstanding young person, that is productive and doing something good and trying to make this world a better place. And it's encouraging. I think just like we thank our soldiers for serving our country, I do, and police officers for protecting us, I do.
Absolutely.
I think we should commend every young person we get a chance to talk to and say thank you for doing the right thing, because they need encouraging.
You know what they do, and they don't have a lot of, there's just not a lot of incentive to do the right thing anymore. I mean, that's the hardest thing. The biggest thing I see amongst, I teach, middle school, and then I teach college, and it doesn't matter on either level. I think that the encouragement is to do the wrong thing. There's not a lot of incentive.
That's what I'm saying.
That's wonderful that you do that. It's wonderful. And, I try to do the same thing, because you're just like, when you see some upstanding young person, you're just blown away. You're like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, they exist. And it gives you so much hope.
It gives you hope. Yeah. And the ones that are, like, I'll be on the phone disputing a bill, and before I get off the phone, I will tell that young person, but thank you for having a regular job and doing what you're supposed to be doing. I really appreciate it. I think they need to know that, because maybe nobody's telling them that, maybe that's part and parcel why there's so many of them out in the streets. I don't think they've ever been introduced to Jesus, these people.
Well, and you see that in the school, it's actually pretty frightening. And when I've been in education long enough now, not like a super, super long time, and it's been 10 years now. And so I've really gotten to see just all these, the bias and the push, and to see that this is an absolute, very purposeful brainwashing. I always call it the indoctrination camps that our kids are put into every single day. And I did this study, I did a research paper on it, and I tracked from, I think it was like 1963, when they pulled prayer out of schools. And Kathy, you would not believe that, you can graph it on everything that could possibly go wrong in an immoral manner started taking place in the schools. They took prayer out. It's moral relativism is pushed. I can tell you that I have a really hard time finding pre-done curriculum that isn't 100%. It doesn't matter. Oh, it's so biased. It's like, it is frighteningly biased to push in the left. And so you really get to see, I think these poor kids, because they have been put in this indoctrination camp, and so many parents are divorced, single homes. And so kids are latching on to their teachers even more than they might have in previous years. And so it's frightening. And so by the time you get them into the college level, you've got, maybe like, I don't know, in a college class of about 20 students, you've probably got about, maybe, if you're lucky, 2 or 3 that are conservative. And the rest are very left-leaning. And it's really that high. And
the indoctrination took with them,
Yep.
They was going on when I was in school back in the 70s. And, I started school. I graduated in 1980 from high school, but it was happening even then. I remember, because I did debates on conservative and liberal issues. And that's when I started to notice it, is when I started to do debates. And I started noticing the curriculum. And I was very blessed to have a government teacher, Miss Young, who was very, very conservative, but I learned so much from her because she taught me about the Constitution, and she tried very hard to be not one side or the other, but I just knew, you know. But thank God for her, because a lot of these kids don't know anything about the three branches of government, you know. And now we have a fourth branch, the media.
Yeah, right. I know that, and boy, isn't that true? And it is. I like that you call it that. And you know, and the kids too are taught that, you know, socialism is. I think I might have mentioned. Maybe I told you this one time before, but in my college classes I teach English, and
My favorite subject.
yeah, me too. And you don't want me teaching math, so it's good I do that. But the kids always do. We do debates, and they have an argument paper that they have to write. And I let them pick their topics. And I had this one young lady that, just a sweet girl, she was, you know, it was her first semester in college, and she was so excited. She's like, I'm going to do my paper on why America should be a socialist country.
Oh.
And so she went and she started doing her research, and she came back to me probably about, you know, before this, she was a huge Bernie supporter. This was back when Bernie was running, and she just thought that socialism was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So she started really diving into it, and she started doing this research, and she came back to me about a week later, and she came up to me and she said, you know, Miss Dillon, did you know that socialism is basically communism? And
What?
I was like, I know, I was like, yeah, I've heard
You
that.
think?
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I was trying to, you know, keep a straight face, but
Yeah.
I was so excited because, you know, it just showed that, you know, they can, if they will discover, if they'll do any kind of research to see what they're actually believing in,
Mhm.
they can see for themselves that it's
Yes.
this huge lie. And she's like, well, that scared me to death. So she's like, I'm going to do it on why college should be free. And I thought, no, good, because you'll see that doesn't work either. But you know,
That's
yeah,
a good thing to study. Yeah. I
yeah,
think that's, you know what, one of the things that we did back in the day in debate that helped a lot was we had to argue the other side of what we actually believed in. So you had
right.
to figure out, you know, where they're going to come from. And it was hard for me. It was so hard because I totally didn't believe in the other
So
side.
sad. Yeah, you're so
But
solid.
yeah, it really opened my eyes as to how they're going to come at you with this stuff, and
Mhm.
how you are prepared to do battle, which you will have to do. Now, I don't do battle anymore with my friends if I want to keep them as friends. I have learned it depends on how much I like them, you know, I
I
guess.
know. How valuable is my friendship?
I
Yeah.
know, because I will go into slay. I that's why it's Kathy's right, because I'm terrible about that. I have to win. I'm very competitive in everything, and not everything. I'm competitive in sports and debate. That's it. Other than that, I'm not. Other than
It's
that, I
also so
totally.
grounded in what you believe. So I see it as that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, I'm a firm believer in what I believe. I wanted to investigate that priest that was on Tucker. He wasn't actually on Tucker. It was a footage of him. Did you see that one?
I did not.
Oh
No.
my gosh, well, we won't go much further, but it was disgusting. I was like, okay, I got to find out if he's a real priest for one thing, you know.
Yeah.
He was standing behind an altar. I looked like an altar. They didn't say his name. They didn't say which church, but he was making the people, instead of doing the profession of faith, they
Mhm.
were doing an acknowledgement of their white privilege. And do you acknowledge your white privilege? Blah, 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 blah. And they were like, yes.
Hmm?
What?
What is that?
I saw that on Tucker, and I said, I was looking
Wow.
everywhere. I Googled Tucker. I wanted to find out, who is this priest? Because, you know, there's phony priests. A lot
Right.
of them are online, and
Yeah.
anybody can buy a collar, you know. And so,
Right.
yeah, anybody can buy a collar. So I wanted to find out, but I couldn't find anything on him. There was no name, no church. you know, there's people who hang a plaque and call themselves a Catholic church. I've seen that, you know, in California.
Or
So it's just, to me, I want to find, that was the first time. I usually agree totally with Tucker Carlson, but this time I was like, oh, you have to give me more information before I'm going to believe that, you know?
yeah, what is that?
Yeah, because that's not from the altar, really?
Oh, Kathy, that sound odd. And you know, it's so sad right now because there's so much in our church right now. You know, it's just I can't. And please, I hope I'm not saying this wrong, but is it Father Altman? I don't know. He is a new young priest that, oh my goodness, have you heard him? I think it is Altman.
Oh,
He is on fire. I mean, this
oh,
priest, oh, he is so needed. He did a whole, you would absolutely love it. I'll send it to you.
oh, please do.
And you will love it. He did a whole, and I hope I'm not saying his name wrong. I'm going to feel terrible if I am, but he did this whole, it was a video
Mhm.
on how you cannot be Catholic and Democrat. You
No,
can't.
you can't.
And he went through it and it was so powerful. And I thought, oh my goodness, this priest, and every homily is like that. I mean, he calls people out.
Good.
Yeah, he does what we need our shepherds to do. It's like, I think, because there's been several of them that, you know, and I don't want to bash any of them by
Right.
name or anything, but there's been several that are like, well, it's up to the laity to take care of this. And I'm thinking that's not
That's
true.
what's happening
We
in
are shepherds.
California. I
Yeah.
have a friend that, he's a deacon in Colorado right now, and he was telling me about what was happening in California, how it was so sad. Oh, it's a matter of conscience. You know, well, what if your conscience is not well formed? You
Right.
know, not
Yeah.
everybody's conscience is well formed. So if there's people out there who don't recognize what a sin actually is, you know. uh,
Yeah.
i I taught one CCD class, and the kids were, I brought up sin. This is when I threw out that lady's curriculum, and I was telling them about the sins. I got the old catechism, and I was saying anything that offends God, and you know, and then their hands would go up. Their hands were up constantly, and we couldn't get away from this. They go, is this a sin? Is that a sin? They didn't even know, but they wanted to know. And to me, I was like, that tells you there's a vacuum there. There's a vacuous hole where we're having this feel good church, you know, where everybody goes to church, and all we hear is, you know, just be nice to everybody and God loves you. And that's it. But people need to know. We need more, sort of like Moses. I think I saw this cartoon once, and not a cartoon, what, a comic thing, and you know, in a magazine, and it was Moses, and God was saying from heaven, he was saying, behave yourself. And Moses said, could you be more specific? And so exactly, people need to know. Those people out on the streets have no clue as to what is sinful and what is not, and why it is important to not offend God. They have no idea. And I think that all Christians have a responsibility to make sure they find out. Unfortunately, many of them are going to find out in prison.
I know you know, it is so sad, Kathy. And I think, I don't know if you would agree, but I think that so many of the priests have not taught sin for so long that they are, I remember this was kind of interesting. My ex-husband, I'm divorced, and my ex-husband he was not a believer, and not Catholic, but he said something kind of interesting because I started listening at home, um, all the time. I was listening to these sermons. He didn't like it very well, but he would be like, turn that sermon off. And he'd say, because he said, that is not like the bubblegum sermons you're getting at church. He goes, I don't mind if the kids hear those, because, and I'm not trying to bash my ex-husband at all, but he felt like these sermons were too, they hit home too much. They literally, it was like kind of hellfire and brimstone a bit. And he said,
I'm
I don't
kind of
want
hellfire and
I know, I am too. I was like, oh my goodness. And he said, I don't want the kids hearing that because it's so different than the bubblegum sermons that they're hearing at church. Because he would occasionally go to church with us. And I thought, wow, that is so telling, that somebody who isn't really, you know, in tune with the church and with everything was picking up on the fact that they were bubblegum sermons.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that's so sad,
Yeah.
you know, at church. But I thought it was interesting coming from him, saying that to me, you know, I thought, gosh, he sees it.
Hmm.
It scared
And
me
I
for our
think a
church.
lot of us are starting to see it. And I think right now we have this really awesome priest, and I've learned, you know, when I start learning things, I always connect with people I learned from, you know, and I just learn every time he speaks, I learn something. And he actually worked with Mother Teresa in India.
Oh my goodness.
He
Isn't that
gave her
awesome?
communion.
Oh, Kathy, that is
I,
awesome.
I love him. His
Oh,
name is Father Rakshaganathan. I practiced. Yeah.
oh, what nationality is he?
India, from India.
Oh, from India. Oh, it's so true. And you know, each of our kids are so different. And I don't know if you feel like that. I think, oh my goodness, like my oldest son, he came out, you know, of the womb like Mr. Logic. He had like a little pencil behind him and his little notepad, and he'd go around, and my mom would say something. I remember she'd say something like, "Oh, look at that helicopter and look at his spinny wheels," and he'd go, "Grandma, that's a rotor," you know. And that was just his personality, and he's in med school, so it fits him. And you know, Jackson was Mr. Crazy Wild Guy and completely different. And then those two were, but they were pretty easy. And then bless Riley, he came along, and and it served him well, but he is the most strong-willed person you've ever met in your life. And I remember going to buy Dr. Dobson. I don't know if you know who he
Yes,
is.
yes, I've read.
I like his books for
Me
parenting,
too.
and he saved my life with Riley. And because Riley, the boys were in Catholic school, and we were at the children's mass, and we were going up to communion. The boys were with their classes, and Maddie and Riley were with me because they weren't in school yet. And Riley went up, and you know, during the Eucharist, and he decided that he wanted to prostrate himself on the altar in the middle of this school mass, and wouldn't get off the altar. No, I'm here to praise Jesus, and he wouldn't leave. And you know, it's
I
sweet,
love that.
but it wasn't. They're like, got to get your kid off the altar. And he wasn't having it. It was just like, I remember I left in tears, and I went and bought Dr. Dobson's book, The Strong-Willed Child. And I did follow that, because he said, you better follow me and what I'm telling you to do, because when they get in their teens and they're strong-willed, if you don't take care of it now, you'll pay later. So, and I
Oh,
think
it's so
it's
true.
true, because he was like he was a good teenager, but
Yes.
you know, and then Maddie's different too. So it's just all these different personalities. I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I'm
Oh,
just,
that's all
you're
right.
making me
I
think, and
love hearing about it because it brings back memories for me too. And every mother, actually. I think
yeah,
we share those common things. And I think that we did, I think, the best we could, you know, and
yeah,
and from what we knew. And I'm
yeah.
glad I did. I'm glad I stayed home with them. I don't regret that. I
Aren't you so
really,
thankful?
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm grateful for that. I feel that a lot of kids are not getting a lot of time with their parents now. Now that's one of the things that bothers me about the Democratic Party. Also, is now they want to say, "Oh, we want the kids in school from preschool." So they
no.
want them from 3 years old now till 18 years old, more than 8 hours a day.
And I think we know why. And I really believe that's why. I
Of
think it's
course,
to the more time to indoctrinate. I'm sorry, I
it's
do.
true.
I
Well,
think that's
no,
what it
I go there. I go there. When I talk, I
is.
go there. I'm not afraid. I refuse to be politically correct anymore. I'm
Yeah,
done.
I can't be either. I just can't. I'm tired. I think, you know what I think? I think that we've tried as Christians, at least I'm speaking for myself, and I shouldn't speak for you, but and we were talking a little bit about this before the recording, that there's a fine line with, like, you think as a Christian that if you stand up for yourself, or you don't say what you believe, that you're not being Christ-like, you're not being kind. And I've realized now, I was like, you know what? I think that's why I think a lot of Christians have kind of fallen into that belief system, like I did,
So
and
did
so
I for a while. Sure.
yeah, and so we've allowed like them to run roughshod,
Yes, over
and take
us.
so much ground. It's, yeah, and it's time to just say no. We're gonna take back. Yeah,
Well,
don't
we
you feel
didn't
that
want to. Also, we come from a different. Our parents, at least, came from a different time where you don't talk about politics and religion.
way?
And
Hmm.
now we're seeing the ramifications of that. Maybe we should have.
Oh,
Maybe we should have been talking about We should have learned how to talk about politics and religion rather than avoiding the subject altogether, because the Democrats are being obnoxiously loud about politics and religion. Thank you for watching and listening to Kathy'sRight.com with special guest Terry Dillon. There's a lot more coming soon with Terry. I hope you'll be back. Please subscribe today. That's right, because Kathy'sRight.com. God bless America. Bye.